Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to another video, watercolor painting. Today we're going to do a winter home scene. It's always exciting to pick out a beautiful work of art that you might see, a painting or a gorgeous scene out in nature. Something that is interesting to you, you definitely want to paint. This photograph I saw online, I thought it was this incredible, a wintry scene, a wintry house, maybe in the country somewhere. It's like a stone house, and all the colors and the effect of the white paper, the tonal value pattern is just really, really beautiful. So today we're going to do maybe a 3 or 4 part series on attempting to paint this. We'll do a sketch first, a light preliminary sketch, and then we'll go in and paint it. It's just a gorgeous painting, and it's got a lot of really rich darks and then some really super bright lights, so that gives it a very dramatic effect. And you really can sense and feel that this is a winter scene. The clouds are white, the sky is white, bright, possibly some snow on the roof there, and some snow in the foreground. And so it's basically a snow-covered landscape. There's tons of different colors in the building itself. Could be a plaster building, maybe a stone home, and lots of gorgeous tree shapes, branches and trunks of trees. The flow is beautiful here to the left. So your eye comes into the painting. You feel as if you're coming down this road, this path, and then you feel as you're here, you're sort of being led by the slope of the trees here, going this way back into the painting, and you're looking at the beautiful structure of this, maybe this stone house here, and snow on the roof, and the mysteriousness of the background with the trees in the forest, and overall just a gorgeous, beautiful winter scene. This is a pretty straightforward, simple watercolor painting I think we can do, and we'll go step by step, nice and easy, and we'll see as we go how to get this accomplished. Are you ready? Let's do it. Okay, so we're looking at our artwork. We're looking at our painting we found online. We say, wow, I'm going to print that out on my printer. Or if maybe you found it in a book, you can just place the book across from you on a table or so forth. I printed this offline, off Google. So I printed it offline. I noticed that it's just a more simplistic style painting. It's not incredibly, dynamic with all types of shapes and colors. It's more of a grayed down, wintry day. So you get that real feel looking at this painting right away that it's a really cold, wintry day with snow and ice and on the ground, and snow-covered forest and trees with dark, thick forest in the background, and some big trunk shapes in the front with some nice branches, and everything's very... It's almost you really feel you're there in that painting, in that winter landscape. So we notice the road again leading the eye across and back into the painting, into the building, the stone structure. Lots of colors, lots of grayed down mixtures, so it's very subdued. There's not a lot of bright, let's say, pigments in here. It's a lot of grayed down colors, but I can see every color on the palette here. There's golds in there, there's reds, there's greens, there's blues, there's violets. So all the palette colors are in this painting. They're just much more subdued, let's say, than maybe using the pigment in a more straight out of the tube fashion. This would be much more mixing the paint and mixing the colors a little more, getting more of a grayed down look to it, and that definitely is typifies a cool winter day where there's not a ton of sunlight. It's more cloudy, maybe some snow's on the way. And we're going to move on and see if we can now we have our paper set up. We have our paper, arches rough paper, taped down with some artist tape onto a table, a small board, metal palette, and we're going to use our normal setup we always use. We have a metal paint box and again the arches paper rough. I use the gummed pads, so all the paper is all gummed together, and then you just trim off each page as you paint. Like so, if you paint on your watercolor pad, the gummed pad, you just peel off your painting once you're done. And it's the orange cover on the arches paper. And we zoom back a little bit here just so we can see our setup. We have the watercolor palette on the left. I have my videos on my standard palette, so if anyone's new here, you guys can and gals can head over to my YouTube page and look under watercolor palette. I describe all the colors and how I mix and everything on that video. And we stick with our same process. Our paints are always in the same location on our palette. We just fill the palette back up with the paints the same places all the time. And then on the palette you have your mixing areas right there, the three main mixing areas on the right of the palette, and then the left of the palette's all the paints. And I'll be using pretty much all the colors here on this palette, mixing them up a lot, making a lot of just interesting grayed down mixtures. And once we get into the painting, you'll see I mix everything right in the main three sections of the palette. And we got a water bucket, collapsible water container, and two round Kolinsky red sable brushes. So those are round brushes with good points. Clean water. And then we have our sponge, damp sponge. We leave that next to our water bucket up on the left side there, just to check off some water off our brush if we need to, or some paint. Water spritzer bottle to spritz the paints every once in a while, keep them nice and moist and fresh. And a mechanical pencil, 7.07 millimeter mechanical pencil. And a gummed eraser, a kneaded eraser, makes no crumbs, so this way if you won't have any crumbs on the watercolor paper as you paint. The watercolor paper there is probably around 6 inches by 6 inches or so. And then we're going to sketch. And I'm zoom back in here. And then here we're just going to continually reference our photograph and we'll do a light preliminary sketch. So we'll just say, let's find the horizon line where the sky meets the ground. So that's about halfway on our watercolor paper. And on this painting, I felt that it was something we can just, kind of roughly sketch in the shape of the house and the trees and the branches, and we can pretty much stick to that game plan of just a light sketch. And this is more of a simple painting, not a tremendous amount of subject matter, just a simple, nice, gorgeous stone house in the countryside in a wintry landscape with snow. So here I'm just going to roughing out the shape of the house. And there's never any stress with sketching. You can always grab the kneaded eraser and sketch something if you're going really light like this. Nice light sketching. You can erase something if you have to and get an angle a little better. It's always great to take your time, sketch it out. Maybe what I find is good, and maybe you find this as well when you're sketching and contour drawing. If you get a very simple light sketch first, you can always go over it a little more in detail after that first light preliminary sketch. But the first light sketch is sort of just to make sure you have the general idea of the layout of the scene, or the photograph, or maybe if you're out in nature, as if you were, let's say, sitting in front of this house and you were actually there and seated or standing and sketching this. You figure out how big you want that house on your watercolor paper, so you can make it a little smaller, a little larger. So here the ridge and the peak of the house is just about touching the top of the watercolor painting, and the snow in the foreground in the middle distance is about halfway, not quite halfway, midpoint on the painting. So this is about halfway here, a little bit less than halfway. I'd say that's about halfway on the painting, so it's a little lower than halfway. And then just sketching in those shapes of the tree. That's a larger tree. Maybe it's more in the middle to foreground area. And I just keep referencing back to my photograph, kind of asking myself the question, well, where does that secondary branch, the smaller branch over here, where does that sort of start crossing over and going in this direction? And then I say, well, it's about at the point where the chimney is, maybe a little bit lower. And then I start and I draw it that way. And then here, there's a lot of dark shapes here, so that sort of all flows into each other. In the background, there's some trees in the background that are darker shapes. So here I'm just really lightly kind of getting the main points of interest in the painting, the key areas that where things transition. So from this point here, this is where the snow is. This is where the snow sort of ends, and then you start to see the trees in the background back here. Okay, and then we're back to this scene here, and so I'm basically getting all the shapes, the main shapes, the house, the tree in the foreground, this tree over here, and the road area. Okay, and we're all set. We're going to paint in a few minutes. All right, we're going to get started in a few minutes.